Disney is not a cheerful giver. Disney's not a cheerful giver, and they are not your friend. This morning, we're going to talk about the last day, Thursday of teaching you Friday off. So today, I just want to say, man, Disney is not a cheerful giver, and they're not your friend. And we're going to close this week out on the moral high ground conversation. And let's talk about cheerful giving. Come on now. This whole week, I've been talking about the moral high ground. Now we went off in some directions, and certainly yesterday was epic in some forms. But I mean, it all is based on this moral high ground conversation I had with myself Sunday, and then Monday on the first show, and then Tuesday we talked about moral high ground, and then yesterday we talked about moral high ground and sinning and things of that nature. And I just want to define this argument I've uh, fired up for you, with me, for us, about moral high ground. And it was built basically on the premise of, man, how can each side of our political parties uh, think they're so right and be so diabolically opposed? Both sides say they are taking the moral high ground. And there can't be two moral high grounds. And so, what I'm saying when I think about who I'm going to vote for, or how I'm going to live my life, or how I'm going to vote for anything, because anything you buy, anything you watch, anything you click on, you're voting for it. I mean, it's a vote. Like, think about it. Like, if you click on something on the internet, you're voting for it. They're collecting that data. You go buy something at the store, you pay for it, you run your credit card, they're collecting that data, you voted for it. You watch me, you're voting. It's a vote. You don't have to agree, I guess, but it's a vote. It's an endorsement when you buy, spend, or give money to something. It's a vote. You're like saying, I'm pledging my vote. I'm pledging my proxy. I'm pledging you know, my my support for it. I don't think we think about it that way, but all this to say, the moral high ground that I'm challenging you with this whole week is like, okay, if we're looking political structure, one side against the other, the North, the South, the Civil War, whatever the conflict is, right, left, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. Both sides say, well, we're putting you in our believed moral high ground. And I'm not going to tell you I'm going to vote for Republican. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to vote for a Democrat. I'm going to tell you I'm voting in my actions, in my ways, in my world, in what I'm doing, in what I'm giving to, right? That aligns with my moral high ground. And my moral high ground is the one that has rules laid out in the Bible. Now, it's hard to follow all those rules all the time, but I believe that the Bible is true from front to back. All pieces of it are God inspired, God breathed. If you watch the show, we talk about these things. So I'm saying that if I'm going to be voting for something and I'm going to declare a moral high ground position on my vote, my purchase, my acquisition, my support, then I'm going to automatically lean towards something that I believe the moral high ground is built around, something that has some rules that would create a moral high ground. Like the Bible says, the greatest commandments of all, Christ said, love thy Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Vote for thy Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. It says that. And then it says in Matthew 37 through 40, it says again, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. Vote for your neighbor as if you're voting for yourself. Like, so support those things. And I'm using vote, I'm using support, I'm using the word endorse. I'm not trying to make this a political show. I'm just saying that it is a bit political. Everything in our life is political. I dare you to try and find something that's not political in your life. Everything kind of trickles down, certainly in America. Born wired differently, it trickles down, it becomes political. But that's not the show this morning. The show is basically moral high ground. We're wrapping up the week of moral high ground. So if you're following me and you're saying, well, what's your moral high ground? My moral high ground is bent around and built around the Bible. Now, it just so happens that other sides that aren't built around the moral high ground on the Bible, uh, they don't have rules. They're like, the rules are what they make the rules to be. It's like playing, a football game, and the other side just keeps changing the rules so they can get a first down, or so they can get into the playoffs, or so they can actually win the Super Bowl, right? That's just kind of how it is. I mean, if you don't have God guiding you, then you're doing this thing we call our ability to have reckless faith, where we back into the things we want. We can turn God into what we want him to be. We can make the Bible say what we want it to say. We can make our minds rationalize anything that we do, see, watch, buy, uh, take, vote for. I mean, anything, your mind is just so magnificent that it can actually mold you into believing anything if your moral high ground is not guided with a super conscience or Christ in your subconscious. In my last book I wrote, your subconscious has no conscience. Your natural born subconscious, the one that this hyper like heat seeking missile, I mean, this subconscious, if it's in your subconscious, your body, your mind, your soul, your heart, everything's going after it, right? And it's going to happen. But if you don't invite Christ into your heart, then that subconscious, right, doesn't have any guidelines. It doesn't have any doesn't have any rules. It's just like, go get it, man. But but I'm challenging you to accept Christ into your mind, heart, and soul, so that your subconscious then has a conscience of Christ. And that will tell you, hey, man, you're going after the wrong thing there. I know you can do it. I know you can afford it. I know you can do things, all these things, but that's not aligning with the moral high ground that the Bible has put forward for us. So just think about that. When you go to vote, buy, acquire anything, is that something that's aligning with your moral high ground? Is that something aligning with the rules that you live your life by? I'm going to get to my story real quick, but I was laying in bed, doing this again this morning. And I'm like, can a unbeliever actually sin? Anybody got the answer to that? I mean, I'd love to hear it. If you don't know Christ, I mean, this is the moral high ground piece. I'm like, so if your moral high ground is aligning with what I'm talking to you about, the Bible as your rules, and those of you don't have the Bible or Christ in your life, and you don't have the Bible as your rules, what are their rules? They back into the rules. They're able to. I've done it. I mean, I'm even a believer, and I can make myself believe something that's not good for me because maybe it feels good, right? I can figure out how to buy this beautiful truck when I didn't really need it, right? I could make it happen. But so the logical question to me was, well, look, if someone doesn't know Christ, do they even know sin? Can they sin? Like, because there's really no sin. If there's no Christ, there's no conscience in your subconscious, then you're just not sinning. You're breaking worldly laws. Like if you murder somebody, you go to jail, but it's not a sin because there's nothing calling that a sin in your life, right? So you follow me with the moral high ground, right? One side doesn't want God in schools, burns flags. The other side says, hey, a lot of us over here really think the Bible's true in fact, and we want to try and live our lives in that world. So there's where we're at. So what brings me to my story today is that Disney is not a cheerful giver, because the verse that I want to talk to you about today is each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. What does that have to do with moral high ground? Well, moral high ground is going to tell you how to give. How do you become a cheerful giver? Can non-Christians be a cheerful giver? Yeah, I mean, I think if their rules, I mean, I know a lot of great, good non-Christian people, and they literally will listen. They think the 10 commandments make sense, so they follow those. So this is not, I'm not saying everybody's not Christians or Christ followers are bad people. I'm just saying that the cavern is a lot wider over there for the scope of, or the aperture of, what sin or wrongdoing is, or the ability to rationalize into what you want to believe, to make it believe, make it work for you because you don't want to change, right? So, I mean, that's that. I mean, I'm not going to beat it any longer. But when we talk about um, 2 Corinthians 9:7, I want to talk to you about being a cheerful giver. I want you to take the moral high ground when you're a cheerful giver. How do we become a cheerful giver? Well, the first thing that popped up in my mind this morning was I was doing some research, and I heard this a story about Disney. I have several companies. I have as many as 15 organizations. Thank you, Heather and Sam, and my wife Tracy, of course, and everybody. There's so much going on out there, and the corporate world, collides with my Christian belief structure on the reg, right? And so I'm in a position to give, not give, cheerfully, to do or not do, or to align a business decision up with the Bible when the world doesn't play by those rules, and puts me at a disadvantage. Short-term disadvantage, but it does put me at a disadvantage, because if I'm going to follow what God says about giving, if I'm going to follow what God says about managing people, if I'm going to follow what God says about forgiving people, if that makes it a lot harder, especially in this legal world. You know, doing what God wants us to do as a cheerful giver is not always putting ourselves in the right legal path, I guess, in this world. Because I want to just remind you, you people with me that believe in Jesus are misfits. We don't belong to this world. We got different rules, structures, and like we got the Bible, and the world doesn't have the Bible. The legal structure in this world doesn't have the Bible. The bad guys don't have the Bible. The people with the guns don't generally have the Bible. The people that want to do wrong and make your life difficult don't listen to the Bible. They don't even listen to the laws of the land. They just do what they want, man. I mean, they just go out there and do whatever the hell they want. They shoot, they take, they do this, they change the rules around, they make it work for them and forget the rest. I mean, that's the moral high ground that someone may have if they're not putting Christ first in their life. And I'm just saying that when I'm in business and I got to do things, and I'm just thinking about this as my mind goes crazy right now. It's like I have a massive disadvantage. Most Christian business people are literally playing with one hand behind their back because they are bound to what God says and how to do things. And when the legal system says, well, we don't look at it that way, we look at it this way. Well, I look at it this way, and boom, I'm in trouble again because I left my flank open because I love somebody for the 77th time. Come on now, man. I mean, that makes it very difficult to be a Christian follower, business person. It makes it very difficult to be a Christian. It makes life very tough. And what I want you to know is I don't want you to give up. I don't, I want you to rejoice in the fact that we got one hand behind our back. Man, I didn't plan on that. It fries me. I'm like a regular dude. I mean, I like to say I do the show and I confess some things and this and that, but man, I'm like, you ask Chad, you ask Tracy, you ask Heather, you ask Abby. I do the very best, but man, sometimes I go for the juggler. I'm like, I'm playing to win. Whoa, 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 slow your roll. What are you, what are you winning? Well, I'm going to win that lawsuit. I'm going to win that deal. That guy's not going to talk to me that way. He's not going to take that piece of land. He's not going to move this here, and I'm going to set him straight here. Like, slow your roll, Todd. But what are you winning? I just told you I am not going to take it from these people anymore. I will win. I'm a winner. But I mean, it just makes it a little more difficult if you prescribe to God's word. And I think the persecution has been there a long time, and I think it's part of our advantage. The persecution side of doing the right thing, this collective club that we're in, taking this moral high ground from the Bible. Well, why do you say all that stuff right now? Well, because I was thinking about Disney this morning. I heard it on the news the other day that there's a lawsuit against Disney. And, I mean, I get lawsuits, you know, it's not uncommon. They're not often, but I've had more than probably 10 in my career. I mean, I can get the stats on it. People take shots at people all the time. It's a business. I mean, the legal system, again, is not a Christian legal system. It is a worldly legal system. It is a system that literally says, okay, if I got more money than you, all I got to do is sue you. And if I can run you out in court and scare you off and get better attorneys, and I can drain you, I can sift you, I can siphon your money, I can threaten you to take all of your money in legal fees because I got more money to run the clock out. And so you might as well just pay up because you're going to either pay it to me or the lawyers. I mean, so come on now. So, I mean, I've literally used the same strategy, but I'd like to think that my moral high ground was in the right moral high ground. But at the end of the day, that's what's going on. And so Disney's got this situation. They're getting sued way more than me, of course. And because I don't know that they're a good company. I don't know that their moral high ground is in the moral high ground as Pacer Systems, or the moral high ground of Wire Differently, or the moral high ground of Tom's Donuts, the moral high ground of Traditions, moral high ground of the Burger Truck, moral high ground of all the things that were to the land and everything. I don't think that they're lining up there. They don't have one hand behind their back. They got the full armor of the world on their side, right? From a legal perspective, not the full armor of God. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take the full armor of God all day over the full armor of the world that maybe Disney may have. Bring it. So here's where we are. Disney gets sued. A lady walks into one of their restaurants with her husband, a nice lady, seemingly a doctor from what I read, and she's got some food allergies or something of that nature. It's horrible. Supposedly she asked for certain things, and supposedly the waitress says, yeah, this, that, not, we won't do this. And ultimately they end up serving her something that they said they wouldn't serve her. The lady eats it, goes home and dies. Sad, sad story. The husband wakes up the next day, mourns his wife's death, goes through all this stuff, and decides that, Disney basically didn't do their job, and his wife died. The doctor, his wife died because of malice or lying or neglect or whatever reason. And he has the right to go to Disney and say, "Hey, man, can you bury my wife? Can you give me some money to do all this? Can you like, let's do something about this, take some responsibility for it." I'm not saying Disney's right or wrong. I'm not the judge and jury here. I'm a business person, and I don't like the system where anybody can sue you at any time, but it's the free country that we live in. And even though it's not in the moral high ground aperture of the Bible, there are aspects of the Bible that say, to go in and talk these things out, right? Well, they got an attorney. He said, "Look, my wife died. Disney, I need more than $50,000 to bury my wife, and I'd like to have it from you guys because you basically were part of the death." Disney, watch this. So Disney says, "Listen, we're sorry." They didn't say this, but I can't imagine them not. I didn't read that they said, but I can't imagine them not saying something like this. "We're sorry for the death of your wife," but actually it says that they've not responded, other than that they are not going to allow this action to occur. I'm sorry, your wife died. We'll look into the matter, maybe blah, 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 but we are not going to accept your lawsuit. We are going to fight you on any benefits for you and your family or the death of your wife. Well, why are you not going to just give me the money to bury my wife? Why are you fighting this? Well, because we don't, although we know we were part of the death, we've got this little thing that you signed. And so here's the thing about cheerful giving. Here's the thing about corporate culture. Here's the thing about moral high ground, right? Like so Disney knows that they did wrong. Disney knows that the wife died in recourse of their business. Disney is a multi freaking trillion billion like a giga meager like I can't I, a quadrillion like they're as big as they are. $50,000 is a nanosecond to just one of their stores in the kingdom, right? And like just one little ice cream store can do 50,000 in a day, probably. Who knows what they do there? But I mean, it's nothing. But they took their moral high ground and said, whoa, 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 wait, we don't have to let them sue us. We don't have to pay them. But why don't they have to? Because here's the thing: Disney has um, a policy that you all are signing when you sign up for their let me see, I'll just show you. I got it right here. When you sign up for uh, when you sign up for their subscription to their uh, show, well, they have a channel, the Disney show. When you sign up for their Disney channel, you sign a okay, there's a simple no reading of the Disney Plus subscriber agreement. So she signed up for Disney Plus subscriber on a trial period for 30 days. This woman who's dead now, who died from eating at a restaurant at Disney World because she was allergic to the food and they knew about it, but they served her the death dinner. Bad, horrible thing. I can't imagine. But Disney's not working with them and not allowing them to do any type of settlement, not even going to talk to them up because they're saying, hey, you can't sue us. You can't come after us because your wife signed up for Disney Plus subscriber agreement. A free agreement. She signed up for 30 days to see if she'd like Disney Plus, and she didn't like it. She turned it off, but they got an evergreen signature on her because in the subscriber commitments, you have to click these buttons. I've done it 100 times. You don't even read them. You're just reading and you're clicking. If you want this free subscribership, think about the sinister stuff behind this. Take our free subscribership for 30 days. Don't pay us for anything, but you have to click this box that says, I agree to these terms. And you click that box that says, I agree to these terms without reading it. And in those terms, it says, hey, man, if you ever want to sue us, you can't sue us if it's larger than $50,000 or a small claims court, or you cannot take part in a class action lawsuit. So they literally gave this woman a free subscription for 30 days and had her by the throat legally. That is not a cheerful giver. Yeah, you're saying, well, how's all that tie in? Well, it's not a cheerful giver. Disney is not a cheerful giver. Disney is not your friend. Disney is not looking at this workplace environment, this business thing as a cheerful giver. They're not looking at it as a moral high ground led by. I don't know a Christian man, honestly. I really don't know a Christian man or person or woman that would literally put something like this together. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul and strength. Well, and the second is love your neighbor as yourself. How do you love your neighbor as yourself when you put an iron? It's a great plan for Disney to lock. I mean, there's millions. maybe, I don't know, billions of subscribers to this Disney Plus channel. And think about this, you are now paying Disney after the free period to lock you up so you could never sue them or do anything harmful to them, or who knows what else is in there. I guess I should pull it out and read it. I'm not a Disney Plus member. Tracy, are we Disney Plus members? Because I don't like it. I mean, I know you're not a Disney fan, but gosh, they brought so much joy to so many people over the years. But listen, let's talk about this. So they're part of the message today. They're part of this cheerful giving, this corporate cheerful giving, this personal cheerful giving. And so I just want to talk to you about cheerful giving on the moral high ground. Now, we spend a lot of time giving you the story, the background, but now this is how this show works. Literally, I give you a story, I give you a lesson. I'm sorry, I give you a story, I give you a verse, and then I give you a lesson. So we've done the story. Now the verse is this: 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Well, so I'm just going to teach on that a little bit. We're going to wrap this up here real quick. We're going to certainly get in, hopefully, in 30 minutes today. But each of you should give as cheerful givers. So, what are the three pieces of a cheerful giver? And I don't want you to just think corporately. I want you to think about yourself. I mean, if you were in Disney's shoes, wouldn't you just like say, "Hey, here's a mill. Go bury your wife. I'm sorry about this. We didn't mean to kill her. It wasn't on purpose. Maybe I mean, I have a restaurant, I have donut shops, I have a couple hundred employees. I mean, and you just literally can't control employees. I mean, you hire them and you hope that they're gonna be great individuals all the time when they represent you, and they're human too, and they make mistakes, and they have attitudes, and they have problems in their own lives, and they're working for $20 an hour. They're not working for these sensational wages that Disney executives are working for. They're just getting beat up. And so she does, this person, this man or waiter waits on this lady, and probably was, maybe, who knows, maybe they were understaffed and she had to work, or he had to work at five other tables, couldn't keep up with the story of the food allergy. And I mean, nobody did it on purpose, but a cheerful giver, if Disney's a cheerful giver, they're like, what can we do to help? Not, hey, we got this little trap. Let's try it. We've been working on this for years. It's now we've got all these people saying, let's see if we can wreck this man's life even more. Let's see if our little agreement strategy is going to work off and pay off. Please, not a cheerful giver. So the three giver conversion. So here's the three pieces of becoming a cheerful giver. Here's the three pieces of the moral high ground of the Christian follower. Here's the three pieces that I kind of studied and learned and came to here. There's the three conversions of giving, or the being generous, right? And here's the three things you have to master: mind, heart, and wallet. You got to get it to your mind first, right? Each of you should give what you have decided, right? You should love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So we have got to get this idea in our head, that in our mind, our subconscious, our mind, that we want to be a giver. We want to help people. We want to love our neighbor as ourselves. So number one, mind. Number two, heart. We want to, not only once we have it in our mind, that's something we want to do. We want it to be in our heart. We want it to be passionate. We want it to be of God. We want it to be of family. We want it to be of love, right? I mean, even if you're not a Christian, I mean, love, you sense love. You want it to be in your mind to do the right thing as a non-Christian, even as a Christian, and you want it to be in your heart. You want it to be passionate. You want something you're pulling for, right? And last but not least, we do have to get into our wallet and we have to give cash. We have to give dinero. We have to part with the money in some way to lift somebody else up. And so those are the three pieces of this conversion of being a cheerful giver, right? So how does this strategy work for a cheerful giver? Here's the pieces I really want you to, here's the three things I want you to do to understand how we convert our mind, heart, and wallet to giving generously and becoming a cheerful giver. How do you become a cheerful giver? Well, number one, no strategy to get something. Like, I've done this, especially in my ministry or wired differently. I've spent money to go speak to bring followers to me. I mean, that's giving, that's more marketing, right? So I can't really count that as giving because I'm giving money to, let's say, Salem Media, um, so I can be on stage and do certain things or sell books or this or that. So a cheerful giver, that's not a strategy of a cheerful giver. A cheerful giver is when you give money and you're not expecting returns from it. So number one, a cheerful giver is a strategy not to gain something. We get we get calls all the time for Tom's Donuts, right? And at first I mean, you can at first I would look at all of them and then I would say yes or no. And um, now I just say, Abby, say yes. Because I don't have a qualifier really, unless it's something really really sinister. But we don't have a qualifier if it's good cause and you're out there doing something. We I don't for the most part I haven't said no in giving donuts, merchandise, gift cards, products to anybody. So if you're in an Angola community and you want to uh, use donuts or you want to convert gift cards to money or you want like just we do it like yes, we have a yes policy in that regards. I don't want to look at it and say, okay, I wonder if they're going to advertise us and not advertise us. What are they going to do? What are they not going to do? I mean, I- that is a strategy of a cheerful giver. Personally, we tithe, we give that regards, we give of our first fruit. I think it's important that you give of your first fruit. You don't do the math and see what you're going to have left at the end of the week, right? You give of the first of the week and trust that God will and your life and your faith will work it out. And the end of the week comes because it's built around faith, you know, not a strategy to get something. Number two, how to give generously, marked by joy, cheer, and action. So when you do it, do you feel joy? Do you have cheer in the action of giving it? Giving bigger checks. I enjoyed giving to Manchester University. I knew it was going to do some good things. I enjoy giving to certain things out in the world and I don't put my name on. I mean, I get joy when they have success. I mean, I don't feel that way about everything I've given money to, and that was really when I first started teaching on this. I really thought, I don't know that if I don't have joy in it, why am I doing it? Because I'm not aligned with it, or I feel pressure, right? Feel coerced, "You're this guy, and you have this money, and you should do this." I mean, that's not cheerful giving, and even if I have it and if I give it, I don't believe God's gonna really honor it because it's not joyful to me. It's not lining up that way. And last but not least, able because God has been good to us. I can be generous because I've seen how generous God has been to me, right? I've seen how generous God has been to me. So this moral high ground conversation we had this week, is culminated with this generosity of giving. Yeah, I picked on Disney a little bit, but I really wanted to use it to get to the point of, man, what's going on in your life? What's going on in your business? How are you looking at giving? What is your moral high ground aperture for giving? Do you even have rules? So I just want to give you some biblically principled rules on the moral high ground of this side of the equation, us misfits. These are some guidelines. I am not, the be all end all and all this stuff, but I'm giving you some guidelines. Number one, I want you to converge your mind, your heart, and your wallet. Okay, we get there now. I want you to understand that strategy of giving generously and cheerfully of you is not because you're doing it to gain something. Number two, it's not marked by joy when it happens from you in action, the joy that you feel from it. And number three, because you've seen God work for you in life, you recognize that God has been good to you. And the last thing I'm going to end this up with is generous giving, this joyful giver, this cheerful giver, is that God is our avatar for giving, right? And we're just never going to be able to outgive God. That's what we got this morning. Thanks for an amazing week, you guys. What are your cheerful giving habits? Well, I just want to wrap this week up. What a great week, 4 days. It's a chore, man. I like this wrap up. I like you seeing the website, wiredifferently.com. Go there, buy a shirt, buy two, buy three. I love it. Use the promo code WIRED at 15. You get another 15% off of an already ridiculously priced shirt. Chris has done a great job. There's over 70 plus flavors. There's sweatshirts, there's t-shirts, there's long sleeve shirts, there's hoodies. So get your Born Wired Differently shirt. Get your Iron versus Iron hoodie or t-shirt. They're all out there, 70 different flavors. Get there, pick one. Wear God on your body. You don't need to put Adidas there. You don't need to put Nike there all the time. So, anyways, wrap up of the show. It was a great show. Moral High Ground. This was a great show. This was a great week. Moral High Ground week. I hope we got through to you. Talk about it. Think about it. Pray about it. Put God in your life. Just maybe a little more today. I'm just grateful for you guys, and I'll take your prayers because I'm thinking of you often every morning. Endurance is the test of this ministry, and I'm grateful that you're there with me. God bless you guys. Have a great